Welcome to the TWMP Daily. I am Scott Faughn, joined by Erin Schrimpf. Erin, thank you for making the time. It's not really a holiday, but it kind of feels holiday-ish today.
The weather is looking great for both today and tomorrow for America's birthday.
I'm not gonna lie. This might be one of the last things I do this week, work-wise, right here.
Same.
So thank you for making the time. I very much appreciate it. Let's talk about vetoes. Governor Kehoe lit it up. My God.
Monday was a busy day.
Kind of, yeah. So, $50 billion budget, 208 vetoes equaling $300 million, 32 restrictions. So, why wouldn't you just restrict everything and decide as you go along? Like, I don't know why you wouldn't just restrict it. Give people hope.
It was an interesting media week for Republicans because there's a lot of budget stuff going on, not just with Missouri's budget, but with the reconciliation bill in D.C., right? And so the narrative has always been that Republicans want to spend less money, but we're spending more money everywhere, okay. Even with his budget restrictions.
Could I take this moment, please, to talk to President Trump personally? President Trump, I actually thought you were great, like before, when all these other kiss asses were up Ted Cruz's ass and rigging caucuses and stuff. I was actually on the radio talking you up. And I don't even know what your bill does, and I really don't care. But I will say this. Could you please ask the people around you to stop texting me? I'm pretty sure Bob Bonder's voting for whatever you're for. I don't need to text him. But not that my text would matter if I texted Bob Bonder, but I'm about to text Bob Bonder and say, please vote against this because you're just bugging people with your text. Please stop the text. I am very confident Bob Bonder's with you, man, 100% on everything. I just don't think I'm with you if you just keep texting me. I'm good, right? Mm-hmm. If I had to guess, pull from the stein of knowledge here, Bob Bonder votes for whatever Donald Trump wants, right?
Yeah.
And Donald Trump wants this bill.
Yep.
So he's good.
Yeah.
So I don't think you need to bother everybody in central Missouri with your text. Just send them somewhere else. I'm sure there is somewhere in this world, there is a member of Congress that's not sure how they're going to vote, right? Go bother their constituents. I'll tell you this, I'm proud of Bob Bonder for just saying I'm voting for this, but it should make the text stop, right? They should stop, but they're not stopping.
Some political consultant in D.C. is making a lot of money off of trying to get you to text Bob Bonder is what I think.
No, I'm going to actually text his actual cell phone and be like, please vote against this. These texts are very annoying. Do you have any confidence that anything they do in Washington will actually be good?
No, this bill is a big bad bill. No.
I didn't a year ago, and I don't now. Is it a big bad bill? Tell me about it. What does it do?
It raises the deficit by trillions to a point where if you thought that we had a spending problem before this bill, you definitely...
None of them care.
It gets completely out of reach to actually rein in spending. Well, Elon Musk and I are on the same page at least.
He seems like such a weirdo. And again, Kelton, I'd like a fact check on this. I've been saying Elon Musk was a weirdo even when all you Red Hat people loved him. This is a Budweiser Red Hat, by the way. Kelton, I think you could fact check me here. I've never thought Elon Musk wasn't nuts, right?
I agree. I think you've always thought he was a weirdo.
He seems super strange, right?
Yeah. Consistency is important here.
And he's consistently weird.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he's a genius, right? I mean, the stuff he does, I believe that. Because a lot of the geniuses I know are goofy, out of their tree. This guy seems out of his tree.
Yeah, I think that's how the president feels. I do on this.
I'm just going to tell you, I think Donald Trump saw that guy coming a mile away. I think New Yorkers know how to take advantage of foreigner new money. And the thing about Trump, when he get $250 million for his campaign, how much do you think Trump soaked him for personally before he got rid of him? I mean, I've got to think $100 million.
Frankly, the relationship lasted longer. You always have those friends.
But don't you think Elon Musk is invested in some casinos and bitcoins and bullshit for Trump? I mean, I bet Trump soaked that dude coming and going, right?
Yeah, that relationship lasted longer than I thought it would. So
yeah. It was your typical July to May romance that just didn't work out. It raised the deficit, but I've never met a member of Congress in either party that actually cared about the deficit.
They say they do.
They lie. I mean, they don't care. Democrats don't care either. Republicans don't care. Democrats want to raise spending a little bit more. Republicans want to cut revenue. So, I mean, none of them care about the budget, really.
Yeah, I think the other thing, other than, raising the deficit to a point that we will never recover, is that it's a big government bill. I don't know what bill that adds that amount to the deficit is not going to be a big government bill at some point. The government is going to be more in your life.
On tips, though, maybe, right? I heard that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a few things that he campaigned on the second time that, again,
I think cutting
he has
taxes
to...
on tips is good. I mean, shout out to the working girls, the Pony in South Butler County.
There's some things like there's a small expansion of the earned income tax credit that, I guess you could say is good, but there's so much bad in it.
Well, what's bad? So they're gonna cut taxes.
Yeah, I mean,
look, strippers need a tax cut too. I mean, I don't see the problem here.
I think, I mean, the biggest problem for Missouri is going to be the FRA tax, FRA cap.
Has one good thing happened for Missouri Hospital since they hired Rob Escovo? One good thing. Can you name any good things that have happened?
All I'll say is that's probably the worst thing in the bill for Missourians right there.
The FRA is a big deal for Missouri. What's happening to it?
So it's how we predominantly pay for our Medicaid match to the federal government, and if we max out the cap right now at 6%, I think the bill brings it down to either 3 or 3.5. It's somewhere between, combined with eligibility changes, I think it's anywhere from at least $700 million to maybe in the billions.
Why did Missourians say no? We're not doing that.
Why did we say no? Well,
the Alaska. I read this article, which I really respected, where this Lisa Murkowski, she's been there a long time. I think her dad was a senator before her. She said, "Yeah, I'm not doing this if you don't help my people with something."
Well, I think she folded.
Why don't they do that?
I don't.
I would ask my
Holly.
About the Chiefs and Royal Stadiums.
Senator Hawley was pretty vocal until the end. Until he wasn't, he was pretty adamant that he wasn't going to vote for the bill with the existing kind of Medicaid cut structure that was in it, and then he folded. So, I mean, I don't.
Did Schmidt even try to care?
I don't. That's a question for you.
Why would Jason Smith be for something that's going to come in? The FRA is a very beneficial thing to his district that doesn't have a lot of health care anyway. If he's the chairman of the thing, why would he be for this?
I don't know, but what rural hospitals are even still open? I guess.
There's one in Salem I drove by yesterday. Yep. I think if you could get the state legislator to care about that, you'd be doing something.
Well, the state now has to care if they sign this into law because it now literally becomes their problem.
Well, isn't it a constitutional thing how much they have to pay? I mean,
that's the other problem, or that's the other issue that Missouri has that other states may not have. One, we leaned on the FRA a lot, which is why Senator Huff has fought so adamantly for it during his tenure in the Senate. But also Medicaid expansion is in the Constitution, so we are constitutionally required to meet the eligibility.
So that $1 billion comes out of Missouri's taxpayers now?
Well, I think that the big bad bill has made it very clear it's not coming out of that. So that only leaves a few places. I think the state budget is one of them.
How's it blowing the deficit out if it's making cuts like that?
What?
If it's making, that's a pretty big cut. So how's it blowing the deficit out if it's making, is this the tax cuts that significant?
They are. See, Trump created a problem. He gave people these income tax cuts back in his first term.
Which I was a big fan
in
of.
2017.
It's the first tax cut in my life I actually noticed a difference.
I mean, it's interesting. I think the thing he played well back then was that a lot of people didn't realize that they had a sunset on them. We talk a lot about sunsets here in Missouri, but
there's beautiful sunsets here in Missouri.
The individual tax cuts he did back in his first term, the corporate tax cuts had no sunsets, but the individual tax cuts did, and that they are coming into play now. So he has to extend them, he has to pay for them, but he doesn't actually pay for them because if he paid for them, then you balance it out, right?
Why is Alford voting for this if it's going to cut the FRA that screws his district? Why doesn't, the House of Representatives is a pretty tight margin, right? Why doesn't Mark Alford say, if you don't change that, I'm not voting for it?
I think, there has to be, I think we'll see, there has to be consequences for these things. So
you're saying we should text Bob Onder not to vote for this, not just because of the annoying texts?
I think Bob Honda shouldn't vote for it. He's my congressman. He's your congressman. I don't think Bob should vote for it, but I think Bob probably will.
I think that's probably right.
Yeah.
Although, maybe he was on the fence until the 8 gajillion texts I got. And maybe Allison got him too, and they were together.
Yeah.
And he was on the fence and said, "No, I'll vote right now."
A better strategy from that DC political firm that's sending you all those texts would be to text Alice. It would have been to go through Allison.
Yeah, that's yes, that's actually fair. So in the Washington bill, what besides cutting the FRA, what else to do?
SNAP is another big federal program that we've talked about kind of all session.
Smart ass comments rolling in from Jake Crozen right now.
Uh-oh.
If you have a smart ass comment, text it to 429-5770. We'll be glad to read it on the air. And you should put whether you want it attributed or not.
Is he sleeping? Because I'm here, Jake. So
Jake started his holiday a little early.
Oh.
We call him lazy ass Crozen around
Some
here.
of us have to work, Jake.
Yeah,
so
Jake. Somebody's actually working, not just being a smart ass all day.
Well, yeah.
But no tax on tips. Strippers are taken care of. Hospitals got a problem.
Hospitals have a problem.
What else?
Again, yeah. So SNAP is another big federal program. Low-income families mostly benefits children.
SNAP's
bill,
food stamps.
Yes, bill shifts most of those costs, a lot of costs back to the state that
Ain't
we
that
haven't.
fair though? I mean, if your state wants to feed poor kids, feed them. Why is that a federal issue?
Well, it's always the SNAP program is a very effective program in preventing childhood hunger and keeping low-income families fed.
As you can tell,
and access to food.
That wasn't a struggle for me.
So we've never really. It also, in comparison to a lot of these numbers
Well,
that we're
you're
talking about, it's not a significant. It's not a. It is very insignificant compared to our entitlement spending, our defense spending. It's a very low cost-effective program.
Well, but if it's such a good program, why do the states pay for it themselves?
Why don't they? Well, we're going to find out.
I bet they don't. I'll give you a prediction, Stein Ellis prediction right here.
Yep.
If this ends food stamps, the Missouri General Assembly will say, "Oh, food stamps are over. Sorry."
I think the Grocers Association and a lot of people are going to have
my prediction
problems
stands
with that.
if this passes, which I would assume is still if the House had the votes for it, it'd have already passed, right? They're having to twist some arms to get it passed. I would assume that, but ultimately it passes. The SNAP program, if it goes away and gets passed on to the states, something tells me the Missouri General Assembly says, "Yeah, not our problem. Sorry," and I'll bet you they all get reelected. You got it. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm or I mean I prefer right, but I mean wrong would be fine too.
No, I don't think you're wrong.
One person says at least they got rid of that awful AI crap in there. I'm starting to like AI.
So then, if you like AI, then you probably like that they got rid of the provisions that.
Oh, if you like AI, it's good they got rid of them.
Well, yeah, they basically had a provision in there that they were not. Again, this is why I called it the big government bill. It was that the federal government was going to decide all of our federal AI policy. States were not going to have any input whatsoever in developing their own guidelines. So. That's a big government bill.
Do you use AI? I might. I'm not sure if I do or not.
I think we all probably use it in some
What about
form.
those reels on your phone? Is that AI?
I think yes.
Because I get sucked into watching those sometimes.
Yep.
I'll look up and it's on Saturday and it's like 2:00 and I just had lunch and I've been watching these little clips of movies. But I have found the reels make me go watch movies. Like a movie I didn't know about, I'll see the reel, then I'll go watch the movie. It's actually kind of worthwhile. So I think I might like AI. I used to be, I thought, what a bunch of dork nerd stuff. But I'm kind of AI. What do you think? I mean, I kind of like AI.
Yeah, I think the tech bros won on this one. Silicon Valley.
I don't like them.
Yeah.
They just seem weird to me. I don't like the tech people. Yeah, but I do like is Ken Jameson. What a great line. Read the PS on that.
You already did. We talked about this.
Look what I haven't showed you.
I'm on the show.
County Sheriff's Department. Thank you guys. Guys in Gasconade sent me this awesome patch. It's on their sleeves.
Nice one.
As you know, that is the shape of Gasconade County and the beautiful courthouse with the chrome dome or the copper dome overlooking the river in Herman. We got Kelton. I mean, I think you're in charge of finding a way to display these patches we've got. We've got probably like 20 of these now, right?
We need to get Scott a Missouri Times letter jacket, and then that's how we'll do it. We'll
you
start
see,
like
Erin,
selling
I'm not a
patches
very
on.
good Republican. I had an actual Letterman jacket from high school. More and more Republicans have seen the inside of a locker because they get shoved in them. I actually have a Letterman coat.
Yeah,
But that would be good to put on a jacket.
I don't disagree with that stereotype.
Kelt, I mean, honestly, I'm not saying you're pulling a Jake here and dropping the ball, but I mean, you're kind of cruising in it.
I'll get right on it.
But we were talking before I diverted us. We were talking about the governor's. I just did the governor a favor there. I diverted away from his bad news to talk about the president's bad news. But yeah, the governor's budget came out on Monday.
It was a bloodbath. Bad for Southern Missouri. I mean, Southern Missouri took it hard. Jake Croson, actually, speaking of him, before he decided to kind of go lazy for the week, he wrote a great piece. If you want to get like a top line view of it, budget at a glance, 208 vetoes for $300 million, 32 restrictions. Okay, so you actually pay attention to the state budget, probably closer than I do. But he broke down public safety Blue Shield program, something I hear a lot about, that I hear very, very popular. Took a $10 million cut. I think that might even have been a Kehoe idea, right? Or at least an FOP idea. $2 million for the sheriff's retirement system, but folks in Gaston County don't appreciate that. $91 million for rural road improvements. Now, what's that about? We have to get the pic. Erin, if you're familiar with this graphic, this is a graphic of the Missouri gubernatorial race.
Yeah.
The red is the people that voted for Kehoe. There's you, right there. Did you know, just out of curiosity, what the second most pro Kehoe media market in the whole state was?
What?
The one he lived in was the most pro Kehoe.
Mm-hmm.
The second most pro Kehoe was the Boot Heel.
Mm-hmm.
You'll notice this blue patch right here, Erin. This is Eagle voters.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kehoe voters took a $91 million hit for rural road improvements.
No, I think that. Wait, no. Yeah,
when they had a whole
that-
special session where they gave billions of dollars to I-70. So right here, if you'll notice, Erin, is I-70. So the Eagle voters here, which make up the biggest population on I-70, they come out like bandits. But it looks like $91 million for a rural road. That's not great. I don't think that's what rural folks voted for. $800,000 for the Missouri FFA got cut. That's bullshit. I mean, come on. If you have enough money to build a stadium for a team with no fans, you have money for the FFA. I mean, those corduroy jackets are dope. You know, they come in the rotunda and they have the blue jacket and you can tell what school they're from. Education, fully fund transportation, he cut that. So I thought the whole charter school thing was tied to the transportation funding.
No. Well, the M&EA has now sued on the ESA funding, the $50 million. So we're gonna have to watch that.
The transportation money. Where's our man? Shout out to Brian Munslinger. I'll tell you what. For 8 years, the kids that rode the Yellow Dog, which I rode the old Yellow Dog 45 minutes one way to school and 45 minutes back in the afternoon. The kid on that Yellow Dog had a friend named Brian Munslinger.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's taking that mantle up. It would appear no one.
No one.
$50 million cut for empowerment scholarship accounts. Is that the ESA thing?
No, that's not a cut. That all got funded.
No, it says edu veto with $50 million for empowerment scholarship.
No, that's in there because that's what's in
that's
the
the stuff. Okay.
Yeah, you're reading off.
Okay, it expands some. Yeah, I didn't read the article.
Okay.
It expands the Blue Shield.
I'm trying to keep Scott
I screwed all that
on
up.
here.
We don't fact check, but I think we should fact check that. Then the cuts. Wow. Ellen Desi, I don't think people feel too sorry for Desi anymore. Higher education, workforce development. That sucks. That's actually important. Transportation. 1 point. So he did fund rural roads. Okay,
Yeah,
let me
I think
redo
so.
this.
Not
Erin,
to the.
I don't know if you do this. This is the people that voted for Kehoe.
Mm-hmm.
They actually came out good in this with $91 million. I think that's what they voted for.
But
That's
but
outstanding.
as we talked about with David Barklage last week on schools, was kind of up in the air.
Oh, you saw David get real quiet about that, didn't you? I think it should be so easy. I think they should just go to this committee. I may go testify in front of the committee, and I'll bring my thing. This is very easy. See the schools in red? Guarantee them the same portion of the DESI budget, the same percentage that they get today. And then you could take the Eichel voters, and give them charter schools with their percentage or whatever you want to do. Who cares? Like, it makes me no difference what they do in St. Louis. I mean, honestly, I wish they'd get a better manager for the baseball team. But other than that,
Do you want to hear something interesting?
I do.
Last night, my mother-in-law asked me if I could find us tickets for the Savannah Bananas that are going to be at Busch Stadium.
Yeah, I boycott that
And
shit.
I said, Terry, I would love to call that favor in, but the problem is those tickets are higher than any. They sold out They sold out Kauffman Stadium. It's going to be the highest.
The Cardinals weren't there in a long
The
time.
highest priced ticket of the summer will be when the Savannah Bananas are there. So that's probably just not going to happen because I can't ask for the.
Let me just say,
best
I
ticket
think
of
the
the summer.
Savannah Bananas are a bunch of hippie bullshit.
Whoa! They're coming in
Look,
hot.
I'm a National League guy.
Do you not like the Harlem Globetrotters?
I don't care about basketball. It's not. It's
They
not
are
American.
but that's what they are.
Bastardizing basketball means nothing to me. You can have a squirrel bait team like the Globetrotters. That's fine. Basketball is a comedic sport anyway. It's more urban
okay.
type things. But the national pastime of baseball,
Oh, boy.
I don't think jerking around with it. It's not a joke to me. Like I will not go. I've had some offers. I'll hook you up with the offers. They take your mother-in-law. I will not go to the Savannah Bananas because I boycott that. It's just a bunch of comedy crap. I don't think, I'll tell you this, you want a state law that actually is right. You should not be able to have non-Cardinal related events on the field at Busch Stadium in the season.
Okay, that's interesting.
For anybody.
That's interesting.
Not Madonna, not
Taylor
Cher,
Swift.
none of that.
Taylor Swift doesn't get
All of
a
it.
carve out?
No,
Okay.
God, no carve-outs. No carve-outs. Not for the Savannah Bananas, not for anyone. No non-baseball related events during season.
Art is in the eye of the beholder. I personally like the Savannah Banana.
Well, you're an American League fan, so you're very much for untraditional hippie bullshit, like the Savannah Bananas.
Okay.
I think it's inherent in your philosophy of life.
Okay. How many times has the American League beat the National League at the All-Star game and taken
Well,
the advantage? I don't.
The
What?
All-Star Game's an exhibition game, so I think that's a very hippie way to analyze that. For 50 years, they had this kind of effeminate women's league rules of DHs. Now, as is our society, it's crept in the National League too. I really think the last real champion would have been the 21 team, whoever won in 21. It was the last year before the DH took over the National League.
21.
Corrections took a hit. Public safety, Ego Devo, $32 million. The judiciary, $7 million. Ew. Capital improvements, 08 took $1 million. National Guard, public defenders. See, this is a pet peeve of mine. If you're a conservative, right? Why wouldn't the public defenders make more than the prosecutors? You either trust the government or you don't. I don't. I trust the public defender a lot more than the prosecutor.
I didn't see this debate coming up.
All these Republicans are like, don't trust the government. I'm like, I agree with you. Then they're like, oh, trust the government.
I do think
Like,
the
I don't agree with
conservative. I do think that we haven't listened enough to the conservative criminal justice side of the party that has, I think, tried to give more money to public defenders and tried to give less money to building prisons.
It's who do you trust? Do you trust the government
private
or the citizens?
private individuals.
I
yeah.
trust the citizen.
Then you should hate the big bad bill.
Well, you're really on about this bill. The FRA thing's real. That sucks. Here's my thing. If Lisa Murkowski can go up there and say, well, I guess you need my vote, don't you? Not going to get it unless you do these things for my people. Why can't Eric Schmidt do that? Why can't Jason Smith do that? He's the chairman of the committee. Why can't he say, well, unless you do this for me, sorry, guys, I'm out. Why?
Yeah, I think my guess is, from a political strategist standpoint, is that if you're in the Missouri House Republican caucus at the federal level, you're thinking we're safe. So it doesn't really matter how we vote on this bill.
You think
Probably.
like I think. The public
Yeah.
doesn't care. They'll vote for you anyway.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
But I still think, I mean, to me,
This is why we should have more competitive elections.
It'd be an
guys.
ego thing for me. I'd be like, you're not screwing Missouri. I mean, the public won't care. You can't expect that. But if I'm the Missouri congressman, I'm like, no, we're not screwing Missouri. Actually, put a pin in that. We're going to screw New York or somebody that's not voting for this. Why? I guess it just comes back to almost. It's very interesting how you have a summer of spending priorities. You had legislators from rural Missouri go to the I-70 special session, get nothing. And they needed their votes. Not often in politics, in the age we're in, do you need their votes. Needed the votes. And they just gave them. Got nothing. Thank you, sir. Might have another. Then you watch the federal level. It looks like Missouri's getting hosed. And they're just going to do nothing.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Tell me Andrew, why not? Like, to me, it would be like an ego thing. I'd be like, oh, yeah, no, we're not. You're not screwing my folks. I was like, well, I guess you don't get my vote then. Piss off.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand why you let your state take it and not be like, yeah, I mean, if you do this, I'm voting no.
Particularly on the FRA, I think if there's one part you want to push back on from a federal delegation level, it was definitely, and I think that's why Hawley was so outspoken initially about the Medicaid. I don't know why.
Aaron Schrimpf and Josh Hawley.
It was a weird. We were on the same page there for a couple of weeks. Short-lived, because he voted for it. He backed down. So
Mike Keogh's an impressive person. He's a winner. This is the first thing he's done that's gonna there will be pushback on the stadiums, whether they actually get built or not. That will be an election issue. If you're running against someone in a Senate primary next summer, I assume the first mailer is my opponent voted to take your tax dollars and build a stadium for billionaires. That'll be a delayed response.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much that'll actually come back to him. Because, well, let's be honest, the people that get beat off this vote won't be back anyway. So, but the vetoes seem to be pretty wide-ranging. And here's my question as somebody that follows the budget. I get what he's doing. I mean, he's trying to rein stuff in. I understand the concept. And I actually do believe if he thinks it's the right thing to do, he probably has reasons. Probably if I actually took the time to learn them, I would agree with him, but I have not because I'm lazy as Jake is. Well, not quite as lazy as Jake is because I'm here to working today, but in the ballpark. Just I'm looking at the projects. Cutting a bunch of individual projects isn't going to save your budget. You're going to have to cut back programs. You're going to have to dial back percentages of budgets. I mean, I don't think you really do yourself a lot of favors going forward unless you actually cut into things, right? Not just cut into individual program projects or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, budgets are balanced by spending. So and when you give somebody there's a revenue side and there's a spending side. But if you also cut your revenue, which we have with the capital gains tax cut, we could potentially with additional, if we try to take the state income tax down to 0, if that number gets smaller and the spending doesn't come at the same pace, you still have a deficit. That's the problem with the big bad bill, is that I think it's easy to run on tax cuts. It's a lot harder to balance a budget if you can't actually pay for the tax cuts. You have to actually pay for these things. So,
well, not at the federal level. You just borrow more money.
Well,
I guess that's their plan, right? But I go back to, you give the government you deserve. No one's going to care.
That is great.
They're all going to
vote. There's
a
T-shirt.
There is not one Republican that's going to be in any electoral danger for getting reelected. The truth is, if you're Ann Wagner, you're going to win your reelection. Yeah. I know there's some folks excited about maybe recruiting 3D Doug. Ann Wagner will be highly favored. Donald Trump will have to be extremely unpopular for her to lose.
The economy would have to totally tank.
And if I had to guess, that won't happen. But everybody is more susceptible from a primary than a general. And I would say you're more susceptible to a primary voting against this.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah.
So you and I are sitting here talking about stuff, but I just don't think, I mean, I really think if you and I got the truck and drove down to Kabul and went to that nice new Mexican restaurant they got there, I'd say as the crow flies, about 1.25 miles from Hillbilly Junction. If we was there at the restaurant, nobody would give a damn. They wouldn't care at all. And they're going to vote for Jason Smith again, no matter what happens. So if that's what the public gets what they deserve. And maybe this is what they want. Maybe it'll be good. I mean, I'm sure there's an argument for this. I don't know what the argument for a Missourian is to vote for this, from what you've said.
Yeah.
Although no tax on tips. I mean, Working Girls of the Pony will probably have a Jason Smith sign, out because my question would be this. I've actually never had a job where I've got tips. or I've had jobs that I didn't do well enough to get a tip.
The latter, I believe.
Yeah. Have you ever had a job where you had tips?
Yes.
Did you pay taxes on those tips to start with?
Did I pay taxes? I am going to text my lawyer before I answer this.
Statute of limitations, probably, right?
I'm not really sure. I don't think we should be targeting college kids that are just trying to bartend and waitress to pay for their Mizzou tuition.
That's my thing too.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say I don't know this.
I don't know exactly what I did.
It's been many decades since I've been to the Pony in South Butler County, but I'm gonna wager a guess.
I'll tell you the advice I was given was to not always enter 0.
Yeah, but. My son,
so was I taxed on something? I think I was taxed on
these
something.
hardworking
was I taxed?
girls that
yeah,
are
exactly.
obviously athletically inclined, good dancers, entertainers, we'll call them.
Yeah.
These gals out working, sometimes in not well heated dance venues. I think they probably do pretty well in tips. They might not enter 0, but my white trash.
Yeah,
so
how much are we really helping?
I'm going to guess that they are not recording all of those on their taxes now. And if I had to further guess, I'll bet they might be somewhere between 10 and 20% is what they actually write down.
Yeah, you know what? This is the thing about, government is that, if you give me more forms to fill out, I'm just probably going to fill in a bunch of numbers. What do they really mean? Are you going to ask me about it? I don't know. Nobody ever did.
Yeah, you just keep bluffing. I'm just going to say, I don't see a gal... I used to see...
Did we just put a lot of exotic dancers, accountants out of business? That's really the question that we need to be asking.
I'm also saying no. I think the no tax on tips sounds good, and I like it, and I think that's wonderful. I'm just going to say a lot of the working girls, I don't know actually fill out I don't think they accurately report their tips. Now, I don't mean to cast aspersions. I'm just saying that's... Kelton, let's say askew. Do you think strippers actually write the number of tips they have and pay taxes on them now?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm
so
voting.
We did not put a bunch of accountants out of business. That's really
I don't
the
think so
CPAs
at all.
are okay. All right.
I think what we might have done is made legal what people are already doing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's up to 25,000.
Just kind of like with marijuana. Just legalize what people are already doing. There you go.
What's going to happen with that?
What's going to happen with marijuana?
The marijuana stuff's cut. Andrew Bailey has decided to get involved.
Yeah.
Another guy that wins stuff. I had this in my desk. Kelton, did we lose the drugs we had? Didn't we have some of these squirrely drugs that look like candy?
They're in Jake's office. He was writing those.
Oh, they're in Jake's office. No coincidence there.
Yeah.
All right. We need a reader poll. Is it a coincidence that all of our drugs are hidden in Jake's office, and then he takes off the next day?
Yeah.
All right, Kelton, what do you think? Jake has all the fake hemp drugs in his office on Wednesday, calls in on Thursday.
It's suspicious at best.
I would agree with that.
We did need him to test them for toxins, which I'm confident they have.
The man with the smoothest voice of anybody I know. I think if I met Ed McMahon, he would not have Mike Elam's voice. He thinks hairstylists are not paying tax on tips. I tend to agree with him on that. And good.
We don't come for the hairstylists. Don't come for the hairstylists. I have a family full of hairstylists.
I know a governor that did.
I did not. You can tell it's the day before a holiday, folks.
Ooh,
we're really
who's a good businessman? People. There's some people that are good at their craft. There's some people that are good at their crafts and good bit. Jahan, very good businessman. By the way, next time you come downtown, if you have not been,
the Booth sign,
isn't it awesome?
Is impressive.
It is. It's like big and classy.
It is.
It is. So anybody watching this, if you've been out, if you didn't make it for special size show, you didn't notice, come back in. And when you come right across the street from Grand there at the Realtors, look at the Honda Booth sign. It's awesome. It is a really well done sign. He says the move here is to convert all of his contracts to tips.
yeah.
I mean, that's thinking. That's thinking. Victoria says Siri on Apple is a form of AI, and Mike Keelan needs everyone to know that he is actually married to a hairstylist.
And who needs everybody to know who's married to her?
Well, I can't say her name because we might have insinuated she doesn't pay taxes on her tips. But I guess
we don't come for the hairstylists in my family. We leave them alone.
Jake Rosen's afraid his good name's being smeared. Well,
If you don't show up for work, Jake,
boom. I'm sorry, you the Democrats.
There are consequences, and the big bad bill has even more consequences for you because if you want.
So, Kelton, when you Google, has that actually
there's
passed
some work. There's some work requirements, Jake. We hope you're not subject to them in this office.
You know what we should do?
But
what we should do? What are you doing? Monday, Tuesday?
I don't know.
We should come in, and if this hasn't passed by then, Kelton, can you Google and see if that's actually passed yet or not?
I don't.
I'm
think
checking.
It has,
Okay, if it hasn't passed by Monday or Tuesday, whenever we do this again, we should just text all the members of Congress to their phones and say, I've received a bunch of text messages asking me to text you about this. Do you think you get something from Missouri before you vote for this? And just see what they say.
Oof. Yeah. I'm glad I don't have
Why is
any.
that oof? That seems
I
awesome.
love this. I don't have any federal clients, so this is fine. This is good.
I don't have any federal clients
It
either.
is not passed yet.
So, anyhow, all right, so you think this bill shouldn't be good.
Big bad bill.
I just kind of think if other members of Congress can say, yeah, I'm not doing this unless you do my thing, why doesn't ours do that?
Well, I think maybe we probably need to look at the congressmen and women from, the swing states like Ohio and Pennsylvania and
Yeah, and it's also bad that I totally didn't read I'm bad. So Jake's
very upset with you.
Jake's been writing great stories.
Yeah, that was
And what he's doing is he has these headlines. And so I'm so bad about I'll just read the bold parts.
Uh-oh.
And I skipped down and I didn't see that he was actually talking about things they reinvested in.
I was confused. I was sitting there. I was reading through it. I was like,
Then it dawned on you I was just an idiot, and that you need to correct that. So what are you doing 4th of July?
4th of July. Well, your lovely partner is hosting an event today, I think.
Oh, yeah.
That I'm participating in.
I'm half dressed for it right now.
The better half of the.
By a country mile.
So participating there. The kids are. This is their favorite holiday, like Casey's favorite holiday. This is the kids' favorite holiday.
How's it more than
Burnsgetter
Christmas?
Fireworks is like an annual rite of passage. We have to go.
How is it better than Christmas?
How is it better than Christmas? Well, it's not cold for those of us who don't like.
I don't like cold either, but I mean, I like 4th of July, but it's not as good as Christmas.
I'm gonna make the mom's case for 4th of July here.
Yeah, go
The drinks are better, the weather's better. It's less work for us. It's more of like the dad side of things is 4th of July. Like I don't feel like I should be responsible for whether things blow up or not. Like that feels like more of a Blake duty.
But you don't like Christmas
So
morning
we
with
just
the kids
like
opening up
defer
presents and...
I love it, but I also do like 95% of the labor involved on the Christmas side. And 4th of July is a little bit more laid back for me. I just need to make sure nobody blows up something. But I feel like it's still more Blake's like responsibility. Like I just want to make sure nobody's like gonna hold a firecracker in their hand. Like, it's still hard work with toddlers. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like I can have, a few margaritas to try to make sure nothing too bad happens. Christmas is a lot of work. Also, it's America's birthday.
But
freedom.
Well, it's Jesus' birthday. I mean, I think Jesus outranks America, right?
Does it? That's a poll. Question.
Yep.
Would love to
Question
know.
everybody watching.
Kelton.
Who outranks who, Jesus or America?
I would actually very interested in the poll result.
You gotta vote Jesus, right?
I don't know. This is hard.
Oh,
this is hard.
You're just like being an atheist, right?
Well, nope, not being an atheist.
Kind of a little bit.
Trying to be a good Catholic here. I guess
right.
I would have to say Jesus.
Kelton, who wins a fight, like a bare knuckle UFC style fight, Jesus or George Washington?
Oh.
I mean, it'd probably be close.
Jesus is a pacifist, so I don't know that he can fight.
Like, I think there's going to be like an Armageddon fight where he weighs in pretty heavily.
That's a great point.
All right, so what are you doing Friday?
Friday, kids, might head down to the lake for some fireworks.
I'm going to the lake.
Yeah?
The John Barget party on the 4th of July at the Lake of the Ozarks. Lodge of the Four Seasons. My Barget's a little rusty. Here's the problem. I've been going to bed earlier, so I don't stay out late enough to call Dan Houcks in my John Barget voice. It's really a problem. I've got to get back on the horse. I mean, Kelton, that was like a very C-level Barget impersonation.
It was not one of your better ones.
No, I need to have some Captain Morgan, I think.
I
may try to run it back tonight. That'll be part of the festivities today is, a little lubricated, and then we'll call Haux.
Okay.
Multiple times. Dan, if you're watching, maybe just put your phone on mute.
Yep.
Starting about 5-ish, 4:30 maybe. Be
Yep.
safe.
Funny story. So I didn't realize how far back the Barget party went.
Oh, yeah.
My parents actually informed me that as an infant, I used to go to the Barget party with them.
It
at the
went
Four
back
Seasons.
so far. Fred Cracky had a picture of himself there, and he looked young. Michelle's husband. He's like he's got a band. They play sometimes at it. Then it's a 2-night minimum, so I'm down there for both nights. I'm coming back.
There you go.
Probably to do. It's one of those things like the Sunday of 4th of July. If we get back to work, it's like probably a bunch of chores and stuff. I got a question for you. How do you keep weeds out of a rock garden?
Out of a rock garden?
Yeah, like a bunch of rocks.
Well, you're supposed. I think this is what I try to do with our garden. You layer it. It's supposed to be layered, like with mulch and like with like garden fabric. You like garden fabric, mulch, then rocks.
I have a whole jailbreak of weeds, and I sprayed them
Good.
once, but I'm like I don't.
What'd you spray them with?
Oh, some like legit Roundup. Like you mix the
Man,
Roundup, and my Roundup
what would you
was
do
mixed.
Without that Roundup,
What would I do without being sued? I don't know. Probably just live a happier life. You know the truth. When I do Roundup, I do it to do it once. I mean, I'm looking at like a one-time spraying.
So if we can't use Roundup anymore, I will just bring one of our goats over, and we'll just let the goat hang out in Scott and Casey's front yard. The problem with the goats is they eat everything, so everything might be gone, not just the weeds.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's really
So.
by Casey. So, got to thank my buddy Damon. Look at this Stein. It's from the city of St. Louis. It's got little cherubs on it. It's got dudes drinking, and then the dope hats, and a hoot owl. Look at that.
Nice.
It's very wide. He said it was a Stein of knowledge because of the hoot owl,
Yeah,
which I agree with him.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide how like America's birthday that Stein is. I don't know if I agree
I was
with
still
you.
caught up that you think this is better than Christmas. It's better than Thanksgiving. I'll give you that. But it's not better than Christmas.
Okay, the poll doesn't. Where did our poll go? Where are we at? Are we? Jesus,
The poll should be a little
America
more well
versus
attended now
Jesus
that there's no tax on tips. I mean, it should be a little easier to hire people to work those polls.
Oh goodness.
But no, the hoot owl. Thank you, Damon, from City of St. Louis. I sure appreciate it. He sent me a nice note about Gussie. I'm very grateful. Got to thank our sponsors. If you care about your family and you bringing them in for the 4th of July, the state fair that's coming up, veto session, look, I get it. Sometimes you want to be cheap. Don't be cheap with your family. Or if you're bringing in a donor or a client, you got to put them in the courtyard, right?
Yep.
Or if you have a client you want to get rid of, you just shove them off somewhere, Capitol Plaza, right? Just see how much they can take before they let you go, right?
Yep. That's a great. Yeah.
Yeah, like Cardetti's got like 1,000 clients. I bet the ones he wants to get rid of, he's like raises the retainer, and then he puts them at the Capitol Plaza. And if they can choke down both, okay, fine, another year, right? Jack's a good businessman. I could see that. And then the folks in the Great Northwest, as Senator Hagan would say, United Fiber, big times in the Great Northwest. Rusty Black, keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Then you got let's spend like the last 2 minutes here.
Mm-hmm.
Senate races. Now that you've had time to digest all Bartlett's bullshit.
Whew.
In the 30th, give me a guess right now. Gellner actually run?
I don't know. I don't really know. I think the threat seems to be effective. So sometimes people just kind of want to test the waters a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's more test the waters. I think he's really thinking about it. I wonder if Kehoe weighs in there. I think that probably the only way I would say Gellner. I mean, when I've spoken to him, he seems intent on running, and he's a good candidate. I mean, Brian Gellner's a very good candidate. Raised a lot of money. I mean, Curtis Trent was just very well set up to win that Senate race. This might be more his speed. City of Springfield. I think Gellner is a very top tier candidate. I wonder if Kehoe weighs in. Here's the question. If you're going to run for state senate and Mike Kehoe, and you're a business guy, and you check all the Mike Kehoe boxes, and he kind of says, "I really appreciate it if you didn't." Do you pull back and not?
Yeah.
I think so too. I don't know if he will. And David works for the governor, and is clearly from the way he analyzed that would work for Gellner here. But I think if Mike Kehoe weighed in, maybe you don't. Nathan Willett, Brenda Shields.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
I think Brian
that's
Gellner
ramping up.
probably says, "Okay, Governor," and I'm sure Mike Keel will come and say, "I want you to serve on this," or I doubt Mike Keel just says, "Don't do." I mean, he's good with people for a reason,
Yeah.
right? If he doesn't, I think there'd be a primary there. The Brenda Shields, I think he could call her and say, "I'd rather you're not," and she'd be like, "Well, I'd rather you not call me and tell me I'd rather
Rather
not."
you not call me.
I mean, I think Brenda Shields. The reason I think she'd be such a fantastic senator is she can tell you no. Like Elaine Gannon was able to tell people no. And not being a jerk, but just be like, well, I understand your precision on that, but that's not where I'm going to be, so best of luck to you. If Elaine Gannon was in Congress right now, I bet the FRA would still be a better place because she could tell people no. If Brenda Shields wants to run, that'll be a legit race. The question I come back to that I understood his answer, and Barklage knows a lot more about this than I do. I think that the issue would be, Nathan Willett is in that Tony Luetkemeyer mold. Nathan Willett's up-and-coming guy, young guy, aggressive, very good candidate.
I think the problem there with a midterm election is that the legacy names may not do as well, whereas we kind of talked in the last episode about how well the Shields name does up there. I still think they do. I
think a legacy,
but
it's two races, right? If you run that race, and Buchanan County, it's the Shields. Mm-hmm. And in Platte County, it's a successful professional woman. I think that's a good play.
Yeah.
The question would be, I love Harry Roberts. What a great guy. Wonderful dude. Tony Luetkemeyer beat him in the primary 8 years ago. He was the presiding commissioner of Buchanan County, very well known Buchanan County name, and he lost Platte by too much. Now they've cut some of Buchanan out. Gower, where Nancy Giddens is from, and that little eastern sliver of Buchanan's been cut out of that district. I would think those would be Shields voters they lost. Yeah. So there's fewer Buchanan votes than there was 8 years ago. Nathan Willett has represented a good chunk of Platte County.
Yeah.
So he'd have higher name ID than Tony did. Although I do think Brenda, because of Charlie and him, probably starts off with a better candidate than Harry did. It's going to be interesting because I wonder with the new drawings, what percentage of that's Buchanan, what percentage that's Platte.
Where does she have to? How far does she have to overperform in Buchanan, and what does she have to not lose in Platte?
And I think being a woman and being Brenda, I could see Brenda doing better than Harry in Platte County, but it won't be enough.
To your point about Missourians wanting the government, or what was the line? You get the government you deserve. Brenda Shields makes very strong case for the independent streak there that I think is could be very palpable at that time.
Calling people a moderate or whatever I know is a derogatory term when it's used most of the time. In my opinion, being tough carries a lot of weight. Mm-hmm. And she's tougher than, I'm trying to think. Lincoln Huff's independent. He did drop the dictator line yesterday. I noticed that.
Oh,
probably wasn't the best idea.
I didn't see that one.
Probably the best idea. Lincoln's independent. You're not going to push him around. Brenda fits that mold. Don Mayhew fits that mold. I'm trying to think. Cindy O'Loughlin, she fits the mold, but it's hard to be that person when you got to run things.
Yeah.
When you got to make the trains run on time, you don't really get the chance to buck the system because you're the system.
Yeah.
So she's definitely in that mold, but when you're the leader, it takes away a lot of the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Trying to think who really has the gumption to say no.
Yeah.
Bratton, Moon, Shore, at times. Mm-hmm. Nicola, I think you may hear a lot more no's out of Joe Nicola next year. I think Joe Nicola, and I think he might be able to do it. You could say no like a jerk. It's much easier to say no like a jerk than to cut that line. I think Joe Nicola's going to have some righteous indignation that people are going to respect. I also think, if you get to know Joe Nicola, he's a guy's guy. He has a Harley. Joe Nicola's a dude. And he kind of doesn't come off like a whiner. I'm surprised he's from the suburbs, actually. Because he comes off like a guy. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's fair to call Independence the suburbs. That's not how I think of it. I think of it as Eastern Jackson County.
And you think that's not suburbs?
That's just not how I think about when we go back to the arc. That's a suburb.
What's Lee Summit?
That's a suburb.
That's a suburb. I would give you Kirkwood and Independence and the city of St. Charles will be the three kind of suburbs that have kept their own identity.
Yeah.
Kirkwood is Kirkwood. Webster
Yeah.
Groves is kind of like where if you're just goofy and you want to live in Kirkwood, you live over in Webster Groves. You sit in a field and smoke pot all afternoon, I guess. Weed flowers in your hair. But St. Charles, the city has its own identity. Independence does. I like how if you're from Independence, somebody says, "Oh, you're from Kansas City." You're like, "No, I'm from Independence." Victor,
Victor. Or you say Eastern Jack. I'm from Eastern Jack.
But you conflate the two. Like I learned that from Victor. It was real.
They're very different.
All right, I think we should stop working. I mean, we've been doing this for a while.
I think we are due for party festivities soon.
Yep.
Which is
Thank you all so much. You all have a very happy 4th of July, and we will see you back here next week. No show Sunday. We'll be back here next week on the TWMP Daily. Thanks a lot.